When we started the vision development process just over a year ago, the 5 big moves were high-level concepts for helping us to achieve our goals and meet our regulatory requirements. But since that time, they have evolved into a vision for a complete transportation network that takes advantage of technology to make the most of our current infrastructure. To get to this point, the team has taken a very thoughtful approach to using data and public input in ways that we never have before. Providing as many opportunities for the public to learn and provide input has been a critical part of the entire planning process. We delivered hundreds of presentations and organized a number of workshops. We brought in global experts to participate in a webinar series on the 5 big moves last summer. We hosted hundreds of people in the Vision Lab, and we partnered with our network of community-based organizations that support us with doing outreach to vulnerable communities that are underrepresented and underserved. And to have more focused conversations with residents, we used a new method called human-centered design. This is a technique that we borrowed from the private sector. Companies use human-centered design to develop products and services that are more user-friendly and solve problems for their customers. It involves understanding the problems that everyday people face and then developing ideas for solutions to address those problems. We used human-centered design to understand transportation challenges and then to test solutions with a diverse cross-section of residents from across the region. Rather than a one-time event, we were able to have ongoing conversations with people who may not normally participate in the planning process. If you're interested in hearing directly from some of these residents who participated, we have a video that features interviews on the San Diego Forward website. So through all of our outreach, some themes have emerged. And while these themes aren't new information, they really confirm what we've been hearing from the public for many years. We heard a lot about transit and how it doesn't work particularly well for most people today, and that includes the people who rely on public transit for their everyday transportation needs. People would like to use transit right now, but they don't feel comfortable. It's not fast, it's not frequent enough, it doesn't operate when they need it, or it doesn't make the connections that they want to make. We also heard about the challenges associated with the lack of school bus service. Transporting kids to school complicates commutes for parents, and it's particularly difficult for families that don't have access to a vehicle. It also creates serious traffic congestion and unsafe conditions around schools. And speaking of safety, safety related to active transportation was a common theme. Many people enjoy riding a bike or scooter, but they are fearful of riding on roads with cars. Distracted driving has made people feel even more vulnerable, and they want dedicated infrastructure that is separate from cars. People plan their lives around traffic, and they avoid certain areas altogether. Saving time is important for everyone because nobody wants to give up time with their families or doing the things that they love because of long and stressful commutes. And everyone, including those who prefer the privacy of their own car, want transportation to be easy, to be comfortable, and reliable. Because we're planning for the future and technology is evolving incredibly quickly, we assembled a panel of experts to provide input on how technology could be applied to the transportation system to help us meet our goals. Our Vision Advisory panel consisted of 11 Southern California industry leaders representing sectors like wireless communications and connected and autonomous vehicles and new mobility services. The panel provided insights into how technology and the better use of data could make our transportation system more adaptable and resilient to future disruptions. They also provided input on how the business model for transportation is changing and how the private sector will play a larger role in the future. Partnering with industry could even accelerate some of our projects or bring down project costs. All of this input has helped us to shape the 5 big move concepts and really demonstrate the possibilities for a future transportation system that provides a better experience for everyone, regardless of how they choose to get around. This illustration demonstrates how a typical highway corridor could be completely transformed into a complete corridor that accommodates all modes and leverages technology to make the most of the existing infrastructure. Advancements in charging infrastructure could allow for inductive charging to be embedded in our roadways, accelerating the transition to clean and electric vehicles. A full range of Transit Leap services are integrated with dedicated space on highways and local roads so they can offer fast and reliable service. Similarly, the full range of flexible fleets are accommodated with safe space for people biking and using micromobility and HOV lanes that make rideshare and microtransit more competitive and compelling. And the next OS is working behind the scenes to operate the system, managing how lanes are used depending upon demands. At certain hours of the day, a lane could be dedicated to freight or transit, or if there's an incident, the lane could be restricted to emergency vehicles. Managing the system in this way really minimizes those stop and go conditions that contribute to vehicle emissions and congestion. Mobility hubs, they come in all shape and sizes. This is a very urban example, but regardless of size, mobility hubs are complete communities with a variety of transportation choices that come together, and it's safe and easy to get around. Mobility hubs are anchored by transit leap services, and they offer amenities that make taking transit easy and enjoyable. In addition to these extensive public input and private sector input, we used a range of empirical data to inform the planning process. This included employment and demographic data, and census data, survey data, and anonymous cell phone data collected from cell phones. All of this data helped the team visualize prominent travel patterns and really understand those critical connections that people need to make and where gaps might exist in the transportation system today. We started by analyzing work trips, which tend to be the most predictable and cause the greatest peak period congestion and delay. In fact, a third of all trips in our region are work-related. The map on the left shows where people live. The darker the color, the more people living in that particular area. And the map on the right shows our region's largest employment centers. These are our Tier 1 and Tier 2 employment centers. And combined, they make up more than 40% of all of the non-military jobs in the region. We then use census data to make those connections between where people live and where they work. The blue dots on both of these maps represent those major employment centers, and the lines in the map on the left show just how many people from all over the region are coming to these employment centers to access jobs every day. This is a lot of lines though, so to simplify, in the map on the right, we grouped some of those lines together so you can visualize where the largest concentration of commute trips occur. Work trips only tell part of the story though, and there are a lot of other transportation needs that people have. So we used anonymous cell phone data to do the same type of origin and destination analysis for non-work trips. A lot of people cross the border each day, so we looked at trips coming from the border region, and in the map on the left, you can see where those trips are headed. Our parks and our beaches are popular destinations for residents and visitors alike. The map on the right demonstrates trips to Balboa Park and Mission Bay. People access these recreational areas from all over the region and beyond. Our military bases are major regional employment centers that attract thousands of workers each day. And in the map on the left, you can see all of the trips coming into the bases in the region. When we started to look at all of these trips combined, you can really start to see that the majority of trips are in the western third of the region, and a significant number of trips are traversing along those north and south corridors. Seeing the data in this way really helped the planning team to have a network perspective and identify a broad set of system-wide improvements as opposed to isolated projects that focus on a specific bottleneck. We also looked at demographic data to assess how equitable our transportation system is. A few weeks ago, I presented on what we've been learning from COVID, and one of the key findings that I shared was that low-income and minority workers are more likely to be essential workers who rely on public transportation. Today, only 7% of low-income residents have access to fast and frequent transit in this region. 20% of transit riders don't have a vehicle available, and they spend twice as long commuting via transit as people who drive to work. 10% of the population has a disability, and many disabled people have special transportation needs, and we've heard that those needs aren't being fully met today. And our population is aging. 13% of the region's residents will be 75 years or older in 2050. So we need to be planning now for a transportation system that will keep seniors active and mobile and connected to their communities and services. We also considered environmental factors. Transportation is the largest contributor to greenhouse gas emissions that lead to climate change. If we do nothing, temperatures and the sea level will continue to rise, and we will be at a greater risk for devastating fires and floods.